I'm Lindsay.
And I'm Sarah, and together we're the co-founders of Whale Tales, a living library of cetacean stories.
Today, we are going to be a little on the nose.
Plus, a northern bottlenose whale story.
So sit back and enjoy as we dive right in.
Hello, hello, hello! Welcome, everybody. Today, we're talking about noses.
Except that they aren't noses.
Right. They are called rostrums.
Correct. So we are going to be focusing today's episode on the front part of a cetacean's anatomy of their head, their rostrums. And what is a rostrum exactly? In Latin, rostrum means beak, and biologically speaking, it is a term used for the anatomy of a number of different unrelated structures in different groups of animals. This is how we can refer to the beak of a bird, also the mouth parts of insects, and you can also use the word rostrum to refer to the teeny tiny piece of the carapace that goes in between the eyes of a crustacean.
Mm-hmm.
Which
really?
Seems really specific.
Now I want to go pick up a crab and be like,
But if you think about a crab, like, it is like a distinct part of their outer carapace, like the part between their eyes. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And, well, Sebastian has a nose, so that doesn't really count.
We don't take Disney animation for physiology lessons or anatomy lessons.
They're not anatomically correct?
Sadly, no.
In cetaceans, rostrums are the physical protrusion in front of the cetacean's head where a nose or snout would be if they were terrestrial mammals or pinnipeds or any other mammals that aren't cetaceans. There's a big pointy part.
Yeah.
Or not pointy part, as we'll see.
And why is it not their nose? Well, your nose is the casing of your nostrils. And whales' nostrils are not in their rostrum. They are on the back of their head at their blowhole. We'll put up a link to some pictures in the show notes that have sort of the evolutionary steps of the nostrils sort of migrating backwards.
So if it's not a nose, then what exactly is the rostrum in cetaceans? The answer to that is their jaw, kind of. If you were to think about terrestrial mammals, it would be sort of their snout, minus the nose part that usually goes around their snout. Essentially, it's made up of the bones that we have between the bottom of our nose and our upper jaw, which is just, I'm feeling it now.
I know, me too.
But the bones are much longer in cetaceans, which now I'm trying to imagine my bones stretching, and I'm just thinking of Pinocchio and what a weird movie that is.
Mm-hmm. But also, it would be weird if your nose was on your forehead, so...
Yeah.
Rostrums look different in toothed whales versus baleen whales, like most things. The top part of a toothed whale's rostrum is shaped more like a crescent moon, while baleen whale's rostrum is shaped more like an arch. The difference in the structures become pretty evident when you look at the cetacean skulls and when you look at the other parts that toothed whales have and baleen whales have, and kind of makes sense when they all are together working as a team. All those mouth and head parts.
Yes, needing to be able to open and close your mouth with the rostrum part. Makes sense.
So within these groups of whales, like, for example, within the toothed whales, there's even more variation than just the shape. So, for example, if you compare a toothed whale like a beluga with a dolphin, they have very different shaped rostrums. and then, throw a sperm whale in there and it's even more different.
While researching for today's episode, we found a really, really interesting full and free, which we always like, article by Annalisa Berta, Eric Eckdale, and Ted Cranford. And the article is called A Review of the Cetacean Nose, Form, Function, and Evolution. Man, the stuff that comes up on Google Scholar and that's in my search history is so strange. But it was a really, really, really interesting article. Much more of that article is focused on the actual blowhole of cetaceans because that is their nose. than the rostrum, which most people think is their nose, but it goes into exceptional detail on the evolution of, that's where a lot of the pictures that we're going to post are coming from, is from this article, as well as sort of, if you've ever wondered, what it would be like structurally in terms of like the internal anatomy to have your nose on the top of your head, this article is for you. It goes into extreme detail about, like how all of the internal structures reorganized themselves in order for the connection to a cetacean's lungs to end up on the top of their head instead of the front of their head. Really, really cool.
I guess because our eyes wouldn't be in the front either. Just like there's so much stuff going on in there already.
Yeah.
There's not enough space. It's so weird.
Yeah. So if the rostrum episode today is kind of just piquing your interest of just the general head anatomy of cetaceans and you want to dig a little bit deeper, check out that article. We always love free articles.
Yeah. So, after all this, what does the rostrum do? Its main job is obviously to be part of the mouth. However, it has some other secondary but also equally important jobs. First, echolocation, if you haven't heard about that. In toothed whales, the jawbone is responsible for where the sound comes from or comes back to, and they hear the sound in their jaws, so that's obviously really important because the rostrum is part of your jaw. It's mainly in the lower jaw. So echolocation is very important because if you don't echolocate, then you don't need to use your mouth because you don't have any food.
Excellent point.
True. Many cetaceans also use their rostrums for social touch and for communication. They'll do sort of like loving rubs on each other, parental nudges, like their parents will nudge their babies like out of the way or up to the surface to breathe. They'll use them for aggressive displays like competition between males for mates. They'll use it to pass food and things between individuals in the same family group.
One of my favorite pictures is of a bottlenose dolphin with just kelp on its rostrum.
Yeah.
Just being like, looky what I can do.
It was going around on Twitter a while ago, but several years ago, there was like this trend of like carrying, was it salmon around on their rostrums in the southern residents?
80s. Yeah.
Oh, in the 80s, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it just went around during Orca Month again.
Oh, okay, yeah. So they would just like decorate
Yeah.
their rostrum with the salmon to show off like maybe how good they are at hunting. Who knows?
I think so.
It was just like
the things residents do, man. Who knows?
But if you think about it, they don't have hands, and their pectoral fins are too short most of the time, with some exceptions, to be able to do that sort of like communication with each other. So they use their rostrum. It's a good pointy tool for moving and lifting and shoving your family and friends.
My 3-year-old, almost 4-year-old son would also agree with all of those because he frequently will come up and just nuzzle with his nose and go nuzzle, nuzzle, nuzzle.
Well, if you don't make the noise, then it doesn't count.
Exactly. How would you know what he's doing?
In cetaceans, the rostrum is quite hard. Obviously, it is made of a bone with, some musculature and skin over it. So it is hard like bone. Whenever I would be describing how cetaceans use their rostrums for hunting, which is the next use, I would always say it is basically like a baseball bat. And obviously, a baseball bat hurts when you accidentally get hit by one that was aiming for something else. And so would a rostrum if the cetacean behind that rostrum puts legitimate force behind it. So in addition to sort of the social touch and communication that Sarah was just talking about, there is the legitimate defense or offense that they can do with their rostrum. It can be weaponized, seems like a weird word, but it can. So yes, they can be when you think about actually sort of like that picturesque hunting moment of especially orcas. It's because they've basically punted a porpoise, often, sorry porpoise lovers, out of the water using their rostrum. And if you think about that being, a very, very large animal with a very strong bony appendage on the front of their body that's hitting you going 40 kilometers an hour, it would hurt. And that's why porpoises fly through the air.
This is also an important part of the bottlenose dolphins can beat up sharks story, because they got long pointy things, and if there's enough of them, they are stronger than the sharks' pointy things. And yeah, and that's science.
Yeah, and also they are intelligent, so they know the soft parts, like the gills, to hit the sharks in.
So, rostrum, good for
Rostrums.
defense, good for offense.
Yeah, when you were talking about weapons, I pictured a sawtooth, not a swordfish, a sawtooth flatfish nose on a cetacean, and then that was pretty funny. Also, it's just like a bottlenose dolphin with like a big saw on its nose. It's just like,
that's not extremely dissimilar
No,
to
it's
the
not.
Ganges dolphin.
That's true. And then you just think about fish with weird noses, or rostrums as well, like the sawfish, flatfish, or I guess it's a shark, I think, or a lasmobranch or something, and swordfish, of course, and just like, man, ocean animals are weird because they don't have hands. So anyway, speaking of which, rostrums, bottlenose dolphins also put sponges on their rostrums to help dig for food. I've seen it. Well, not in the wild. I've seen pictures of it, and it looks weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
So strange.
But it helps. Like, they found it's definitely a cultural thing. It's not all bottlenose dolphins, but it would also depend, because it's a certain type of sponge. So I know it happens in Australia. But of course, and then there's like, now I can't keep track of how many different subspecies of bottlenose dolphin there are, because that's what they're focusing on and not something else. But it's not all subspecies of bottlenose, which was my point there. Not to go off on another tangent.
And it probably also depends on like the substrate where they're digging for food anyways.
Also true. Yeah, digging for food, sponges, what kind of food they're eating mainly,
and that's all the things we know about rostrums.
Hooray!
They're pretty handy and pretty specific to cetaceans in the fact that they are still present on their face, but not involved in respiration.
Yeah, and that there's so many of them, like in beaked whales.
Yeah,
like
so many shapes.
I was going to say tooth whales, but beaked whales especially, of course. But all sorts of all the tooth whales, they're all different shaped.
It's just a really cool, like, obviously the anatomy of cetaceans compared to all other mammals is really different, but what I found super interesting about rostrums specifically is, like, even other marine mammals, like, it's just real different, and then quite varied within the cetacean group anyways. So.
Yeah, well, because you think about whale sharks and baleen whales, and like they eat the same thing, but they've got rostrums, and whale sharks have got nothing. It's just flat at the front, like they ran into something.
It's true.
So, like, what kind of, aside from all the other advantages blue whales have, but like, it's just interesting to see like what would be better. I don't know.
Yeah,
so many things. Anyway, before we continue with the rest of the episode, we want to take a moment to tell you how you can support our podcast and everything we do at Whale Tales.
One way you can support us is becoming a patron on patreon.com/whaletales. You can join us for $1 a month at the porpoise level, $5 a month at the dolphin level, or $10 a month at the whale level.
Each level comes with a variety of perks, including discounts on our merch, like our new podcast logo.
Yeah.
So awesome. We love it so much. You can also get a thank you postcard signed by all three of us, access to extended interviews and stories with the guests that we have on our podcast, and at the $10 level, at the whale level, you can produce your own Sunflipper Fact segment of the podcast.
Thank you so much to the patrons that we have. You are amazing, and we value your support every day.
And if you aren't able to support us financially, don't worry. There are still lots of other things you can do to help us out. You can leave us a rating or a review on your podcast platform of choice, like Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and this will help other people find us. And you can also tell your Cetacean Science podcast loving friends in person about us so that they can listen too.
We would like that. We would like that very, very much. You can also follow us on social media. Plus, you can send your feedback to us there so that we can keep making the podcast even better.
Yes, this episode was a kind of sideways suggestion from somebody who asked us a question on our Instagram. So that's how this happens. Hooray!
So the next episode could be from you.
Yeah, speaking of which, we don't have a theme for next episode yet.
But you know what we do have?
I do. Yeah, you missed a whole month of it. Are you ready?
So ready.
The flourish.
The flourishing Fun Flipper Fact.
Oh god. Did that to myself.
Fun Flipper Fact. Was that flourishing enough for you?
Very.
I liked it. It was like if you could have a fan or something or a boa.
That's what I was thinking.
Ooh.
I was thinking of the big fans from White Christmas.
Yeah.
Anyways, today's Fun Flipper Fact was actually voted on by our patrons. So every once in a while we throw a poll up for our patrons to vote on, and the winning cetacean that our patrons, and now you, wanted to know something fun and flippery and factual about was the melon-headed whales. So melon-headed whales are cetaceans in the blackfish group, like false killer whales and killer whales. Notice I started with false killer whales because there's nothing false about them, and I feel like they need some equal play every once in a while. Like so many, specifically of the blackfish, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can grow till they're about 9 feet or 2.75 meters long. They're about 500 pounds or 225 kilograms, and they are found pretty much worldwide in tropical and subtropical waters, primarily near shore and around oceanic islands like Hawaii, French Polynesia, the Philippines, pretty much anywhere you or me or any of us would like to go on vacation right now. Or you might see a melon-headed whale. Oh, I'm just gonna dream. About being on vacation. And one of my favorite Fun Flipper facts about melon-headed whales actually has to do with their name. Now, these are toothed whales. They are in the dolphin family, like all killer whales and blackfish that have, again, poor branding. And so they do use their melons to echolocate, or the front part of their forehead, and then their rostrum and lower jaws we were talking about as part of echolocation. But interestingly enough, as is the case with many of the names that animals are given, the melon-headed whale was not named for the shape of its head being in relation to, a melon.
Why would that be a thing?
Instead, from everything that we could find, it is named after a French bowler hat, which is colloquially in French, probably not now, but back in ye olden Francais days, the French bowler hat was known as the melon. And apparently, that's what the people who were first describing melon-headed whales thought of when they saw one's head.
What a great decision.
Yeah. Because, I always thought melon-headed whales, like before I'd heard the name but hadn't seen one, I was like, oh, maybe they're like beluga. No.
No, not at all.
Nope.
If anybody's going to be a melon-headed whale, it's a beluga.
Nope. So,
and that's our Fun Flipper fact about melon-headed whales, or maybe, as we should now say, melon-headed whales. And we can all just do a little tip of our little bowler derby hats.
The step one of their rebranding. Moving on to another whale that has a slightly confusing name, but less than that. Is time for our story, which is super exciting. We have a story from Elizabeth, who's a PhD student at Dalhousie. She's studying longfin pilot whales. She's actually sent in some pilot whale stories for us before, but today she's going to talk to us about northern bottlenose whales, which are a beaked whale and have nothing to do with bottlenose dolphins and are also way bigger than you think that they are.
A little bit. Yeah.
So, here is Elizabeth.
Hello, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Swanborn, a PhD student at Dalhousie University studying decision-making in longfin pilot whales off of eastern Canada. However, I'm here to talk to you today about a very different cetacean that I've had the privilege of observing on research trips. This species is the northern bottlenose whale, Hyperoodon ampullatus. Before I tell this story, and because we are talking about a listed species at risk here in the Maritimes, I do want to clarify that this fieldwork was done under the necessary permits from Fisheries and Oceans Canada. Now, you may never have heard of them before. They are a large, approximately 10-meter long, endangered beaked whale found in the deep pelagic waters offshore. Here in Nova Scotia, they live around 100 nautical miles from the mainland in submarine canyons. They are a species that very few people have had the opportunity to see. My story starts last summer. It was the middle of July. The research trip had been delayed by the pandemic, and we were heading out about a week late. It took us a day and a half to make our way on a 40-foot sailboat called Balena from Halifax to the Gully, which is a large submarine canyon northeast of Sable Island. And when we got out there, we were wrapped in a blanket of fog. Now, you'd think the whales would be hard to find in the fog, but indeed, the northern bottlenose whale are a very special beaked whale because they are often curious and come up to boats. It was in this fog that I had my first encounter with a bottlenose whale. We were sailing along the contours of the canyon, and out of the mist appeared a lone individual. Brownish-toned and patchy with diatoms, this bottlenose whale approached our vessel. Gracefully it circled us, once, twice, then 3 times, breathing steadily as it prepared itself for its next dive. Each time it broke the surface. You could see its distinctively rounded melon appear, sometimes with glimpses of its distinct, small and pointed bottle-like rostrum. This visit allowed us a chance to take photos of its dorsal fin for our identification catalog. Then, as quickly as it appeared, it dove, off on its merry way to hunt squid in the deep waters of the Gully. Over the next few weeks, we encountered many bottlenose whales. In some groups, there were very young calves. In others, simply adults. In one, an extremely emaciated individual, accompanied by 2 healthy companions. We encountered this particular group on several occasions during our time in the Gully. The whale had no external marks or entanglement, perhaps just showing signs of old age or an underlying condition. But in general, most of the whales we found were fat and healthy, the population growing. The core of this submarine canyon has been set aside as a marine protected area, and the small bottlenose whale population that calls it home has increased in the years following this designation. It is a great example of conservation at work. The theme of this podcast is unique rostrums, and this species fits very well into that category. I spent my encounters with bottlenose whales in awe of their very much cartoonish proportions. They are certainly more on the weird side of cute, but those who have had the privilege of observing them cannot help but be drawn into their world. After all, it's not every day that one finds a friendly beaked whale. I would argue that the whales found us at least as frequently as we found them. Some groups curious, others disinterested. My main purpose as a member of this trip was to capture footage of northern bottlenose whale behavior using a drone. While I do not have time here to discuss all of these wonderful encounters in detail, I will sing you a verse of a song that our crew came up with during our time at sea, and the long hours of watch we had staring into the night as we waited for dawn and a new day of research. I hope you enjoyed as much as I do. We're off to sea, to the Gully we be, in wind and rain by sail. in search of elusive creatures to see the northern bottlenose whale. They dive down deep for squid they seek in waters far below. We're off to sea to the gully we be, and onward east we go.
That was so amazing. Also, I love her song so much. It's great.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. We love it.
Yes, it's great. In the story the story link that will be in the show notes link, I've put a link to a reel that she posted of a drone footage of these northern bottlenose whales, and it's amazing, and I just want to watch it all day long. And also then go whale watching.
Indeed. So great. Before we come to the end of the episode, we thought we would leave you with some ways that you can help the ocean and the world and the whales around you. It is July, and as you might know, that is traditionally talked about in environmental circles as Plastic-Free July. And we're big fans of reducing the use of plastic in our lives, but also big fans of like reasonable, sustainable approaches to sustainability, which might not be plastic-free, but it might just be plastic reducing or plastic awareness or something like that. Because buying a whole bunch of new stuff to replace perfectly good plastic stuff that's not broken is not sustainable. So that's my call to action for Plastic Free July, is do Plastic Free July without buying anything new from the internet.
I had a win that had nothing to do with me, actually. Ooh. My eye drops that were single-use little snappy snaps. They changed it and turned it into a big bottle. Oh, that is great. And also then you can control how many eye drops you put in your eye instead of having to commit to the whole snappy snap thing.
That sounds good on so many levels.
Amazing. And so that was nice. And then also I finally started using my laundry strips, because when I got them I had just bought a new thing of Tide, so I started using those, and that's working great. And the laundry strip place, True Earth, this is not an ad unless they want it to be, just released toilet cleaning strips. So you put it in and it dissolves, and then you scrub, and it works the same as toilet bowl cleaner. So I decided to try that eventually. That's when exciting. I run out of toilet bowl cleaner.
It is amazing that you mentioned that, because that was going to be my mom, who arrived with my dad today to visit, brought me some of those.
Amazing.
That's so fantastic. Yeah, I have not tried them because they are literally sitting on my couch right over there. And I'm very excited.
Yeah, I have not used the strips of laundry detergent yet because I bought bulk laundry detergent an embarrassing long time ago, because I didn't know how much laundry detergent I went through when it's concentrated like this. So I have lots for many years.
Yeah, so I guess laundry strips win today's call to action.
Apparently. I think that's about going to bring us to the end of our episode today. We would, as always, love to hear your thoughts on this or any episode, so please visit our website, whale-tales.org, and find links to our various social media handles so that you can drop us a line.
You can also tweet at us directly. I am FHG07. Sarah is Sarah K. Given, no H, and Nicole is Nick F. Cann, C-A-N-N.
You can head to our website to subscribe to the podcast, check out our merchandise, like stuff with our new podcast logo, learn about supporting us and becoming a patron, and while you're there, read over 1,100 whale, dolphin, and porpoise stories.
That's whale-tales.org. Tales like the story, not tales like the animal.
And if you've seen a cetacean, we would love to add your story to our library. Click the share link on our website. You can contact us on social media, whaletales_org on Instagram, or whaletalesorg on Facebook and Twitter. Or you can email us a voice memo like Elizabeth and tell us all about your incredible cetacean encounter.
Finally, we want to acknowledge that we recorded today's episode on the unceded territories of the Coast Salish peoples and the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations, as well as the homelands of the Tawasin First Nation.
Thank you again so much, everybody, for listening and for supporting us, and we hope you have a really great day.